Welcome to Episode 3, Season 2 of the Dave Whitty Show. I'm your host, Dave Whitty. Folks, as always, this podcast is brought to you by Lamb's Rum. Lamb's, one of the top choices for Newfoundlanders who love the authentic, smooth taste. Enjoy Lamb's Palm Breeze today with a splash of Coke and lime wedge. Or for something different, try Lamb's Spice on its own on the rocks. Lamb's the best choice for hard-working Newfoundlanders, and at a great price, find Lamb's Rum at all of your local NLCs. Well, welcome back, guys. Good to be back. I want to say a big thanks to my pal, Mr. Rowan Sherlock, for coming on last episode. It was great catching up with Rowan, and make sure you do go check out his band. I mean, they're doing a bunch of gigs over the Paddy's Day or Paddy's Week kind of thing. His band is Rugged Shores, and they're awesome. So make sure you do go check those guys out if you are celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Got another great episode this week. Mr. Adam Baxter, a longtime friend of mine, probably booked me for some of the first shows of my life, to be completely honest with you. When it came to playing bar gigs and stuff like that, I mean, we got into a whole lot of that with the interview and stuff, but Adam's an awesome guy, music educator, songwriter. He's into all kinds of different things, and he's just, really fun to chat with, and we had a great conversation. So make sure you do stick around for that chat with Mr. Baxter. Paddy's Day is on the rise, as I just mentioned. I did a couple gigs last weekend with my pal Mark Manning, and got a few more coming up this weekend and on St. Patrick's Day itself. You can find me at Kelly's Pub on St. Patrick's Day and late night with my pal Mark. So we're doing some gigs there, and we're floating around all weekend doing a few more things. Got a real fun show to announce. On April 14th, I'll be doing a solo show with my friend Mike Bursey, who is an incredible songwriting talent. Myself and him will be sharing the stage. Not together. He's going to do an opening set, and I'll close it off at the Ship. That's going to be April 14th, which is Good Thursday. No, Holy Thursday. Good Friday is the day after. But it's Bad Thursday. So that'll be a bit of fun. Something a little different. Could be a great night to get out and play a few tunes. And Holy Thursday is always one of those real fun nights downtown because obviously everybody has the next day off. So keep an eye out for that on all my social media channels. Don't think I'm going to sell any tickets. Think I'm just going to put, a cover charge on the door and let it come as it is. I mean, that's always a bit of fun to do that. And, I mean, it's always still a little tricky. I mean, I don't think anything's going to change right now. It looks like we're kind of smooth sailing with lockdowns and stuff like that, but who's to say? So we'll just throw a cover charge on the door and pay, and pay as you come in. So April 14th at the Ship with Mr. Mike Bursey. That's real fun. Leafs have been in action obviously the last couple weeks, really spiraling out of control. Classic Leafs. Everyone's panicking. The goalies are falling apart. The outdoor game was miserable. Matthews got suspended. It's always interesting being a Leafs fan. It's you can't really win. Matthews got that 2-game suspension. Looks like he clapped back a bit, and he got the 2-game suspension, which is not going to help the team at all, especially with the goaltending being so miserable and some injuries there and stuff like that. So they got their 5th-string goalie going in. Eric Shalgren is starting tonight when I'm recording here on Tuesday. So when you're listening tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see how that game all unfolded. Matthews obviously out. Tavares is bumped up to the first line, so I'll be tuned in for that one. Hopefully the Leafs can get her back on the rails here and finish out strong going into the playoffs. Great news to hear that the Jays are back and Major League Baseball, the lockout finally ended. Really happy to hear that. Really looking forward to the baseball season this year. I think the Jays have a really, really good chance. And I just loved, a few years ago, when they went on that big run, I thought it was so exciting. Obviously I'm a diehard Leafs fan, but I love the Jays as well. And they really got a great team in place. The pitching staff looks strong. All of the hitters and the infield positions look great. Looks like they're still trying to add a piece there, which is interesting to see. A lot of talks with Freddie Freeman and Kyle Schwarber. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there and what transpires there. But great to see that the Jays and the baseball season is back. Looks like opening day is going to be April 8th, I believe. So I'll be tuning in there and looking forward to a nice, great big long baseball season with the Blue Jays. Mr. Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers re-signed back in Green Bay. Shocking, I know. I don't know what's up with this guy. I've been an Aaron Rodgers fan my whole life, and feels like the last year he doesn't feel like he's the same person to me, and it's kind of pissed me off a little bit, to be honest with you. But he's back in Green Bay, and I am a Packers fan, so he's definitely our best chance to win. So I guess good to see Rodgers back in the green and gold. So Brady came out of retirement. I don't think he actually officially retired, but this is not a shock to me as well. I'm not shocked to see Brady back on the football field this year. which is, Tom Brady-ish. I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady, but you can't knock him for what he's after doing in his career. So the Bucs are going to be great again. There's no doubt about that. March Madness is just around the corner. Always a really, really fun time for NCAA college basketball. Love the tournament. Probably going to miss a lot of it this weekend, actually, with working and stuff like that. But the first week is always such a blast. I mean, there's so many games and upsets and all that stuff. So got my bracket filled out and looking forward to another great tournament there with at the NCAA. I did pitch a little Lambs contest last episode, guys. I had a bunch of entries come in, so thanks to everybody who sent in your entries. I had a bunch of really great ones. I threw it in a random draw generator, and I came up the winner. So this winner for the Lambs contest, I put a little package together with a bunch of Lambs swag. The winner is Vicky Foley, and she had her cocktail, the Spicy Bic, which is Lambs spiced rum and pineapple crush. So very authentic to Newfoundland. I love that. Sounds delicious. So shoot me an email and get in touch with me, and I'll line you up with that package, Vicky. That about does it for me. What's going on in my world, guys? I think I did mention that show. Looking forward to getting back out and playing some of my songs with my pal Mike Bursey. And and the COVID, the mask mandate and all that has ended, so it's back to full capacity downtown, which is great to see for booking shows and stuff like that. I mean, you always want to be able to have as many people as you possibly can. So, that about does it for me, guys. So with that, I'll flip it over to Mr. Adam Baxter. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Adam Baxter to the podcast. What's going on, Bax? Thanks for joining me today. How you doing, pal?
Bro, I'm feeling pretty cool right now being on your podcast. Had a great day here in central Newfoundland, and I'm here talking to my old pal, Dave Whitty. So yeah, all is great.
Oh man, awesome. Happy to hear. What's the weather like out there now? Is there much snow on the ground or?
Not much after we had that wind and rain thing, right? So the rain beat the snow down pretty good. It's a little chilly, but when isn't it a little chilly in March?
Yeah, no doubt.
Man.
I know we were chatting just a little bit before we got going there, and you said you had a busy day. I mean, you were teaching all day and doing some lessons as well, and so I do appreciate you taking the time, just to come on and have a little chat. And I know you just went through a huge month of February. I do want to get into that. Not quite right away, because I do want to dig into that a little bit later. But man, what a feat! I mean, that must feel pretty neat to kind of get that done and over with. I bet you that was probably pretty stressful, probably towards the middle of it. I'd say you're probably kind of looking down the pipe going, oh my God, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, it was a huge undertaking, right? And it was like each kind of like week had its own kind of like mental and emotional hurdles. But to get it done felt really good. And I kind of feel like as a songwriter, it's like I'm going to define myself as a songwriter before and after this whole project.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's really neat. And like I did mention, we'll dig into that a little bit later, but sure. I kind of wanted to start off kind of, not from the beginning of your life. I don't want to talk about you as a 5-year-old. I mean, but kind of maybe about more so your musical career and kind of obviously you grew up in Nova Scotia. You've been in Newfoundland for a number of years now. Yeah. Newfoundland is home now. I'm assuming. I mean, your folks Definitely. Are still back in Nova Scotia, but you do consider Newfoundland your home. And I kind of wanted to talk about, what was your thought process of essentially originally moving to Newfoundland first? Was it to attend university? Was that the whole kind of idea behind it?
Well, there's a couple things, right? I spent I dabbled my toes like in playing in bands and stuff like that back in Nova Scotia, and I really loved music and kind of furthering that as far as I could. So I did a couple years at Acadia University studying music, right? And I realized that I loved studying music, but didn't really care for living in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, and going to Acadia. No discredit to the university; it's a brilliant university. It just wasn't for me at the time in my life. And at the time, I was dating a girl from St. John's, who happens to be Pete Soucy's niece, and Pete Soucy is known as Snook.
Snooki,
right? Yeah. So I thought that was, and I moved here, and the family was talking about this celebrity that was in the family, and I didn't know, right? And then they show him on NTV News, and I was like,
"You're like this guy?"
Yeah. So this was in 2004 when I first relocated my life to St. John's. The main thing was, one, moving with that girlfriend, and two, I wanted to study music at MUN because I heard it had such a I heard the music program was really great, but it wasn't really on everybody's radar. So I wanted to come kind of check it out. I auditioned for that before and I didn't get in, but I still made the decision to come in and work towards a second audition. Um, and I had like a backlog of shows and songs written and stuff like that on my own, but I wasn't really pursuing it crazy hard. And I didn't really pursue music really that intensely until about 2005, about a year after living here. I was studying and I had met some friends and I got caught up in the metal scene of all things. And they were really into just putting off shows and had anybody wanting to play it. One of the guys who was a kind of a spearheader of that scene, Joel Upshaw, was starting to do this weekly acoustic thing on Monday nights at CBTG's, which was on the deck. I think it's known as Plan B now. And I was living with a guy named Alan Bairns, who was friends with all them. And before the show, the first one they did, they all came over to hang out and talk about what they were going to do at the show. And I was in my room practicing, and Joel comes in and he was like, "It's like, do you want to play one of these next week?" And that kind of, it started that. And from there, like, play for every week for months and months and meeting people and having a good time, writing lots of songs. Then after, I'll fast forward a little bit, probably about 6 to 8 months, we decided to move from CBTG's on the deck to Distortion. But we couldn't get Mondays, so we got Wednesdays. And then that was where the Epic Wednesday thing started. And that's where you and I met. Mm-hmm. Was through me doing that. And the Epic Wednesday thing was just...
what was that, 2005?
Yeah, I think if it wasn't...
It could have been 2006 because I graduated in 2005. I feel like it would have been the year after that for myself. You might have started it the year before, but I think I might have not have played one maybe until 2006. But
I'm gonna guarantee that you didn't play one until 2006 only because, ready for this? I know I didn't sign up for MySpace until early 2006, and you initially messaged me about it on MySpace. And on MySpace, I remember when you messaged me I was just thinking about this on the drive home. And on your MySpace, I'm almost certain that one of your first songs was Elbow Droppin' Dracula on it. And I was like, what? Who is this guy? Writing Elbow Droppin' Dracula, getting in touch with me, right? And I was like...
Elbow Droppin' Dracula is, that was definitely a song. I mean, it's funny. I actually wrote that song for a school project, man. Yeah, I actually... that my teacher, I mean, we were supposed to read Dracula, and my teacher, Mrs. Wadden, God love her, she was awesome. She, we had to read Dracula, and we had to do this big project, and I didn't do any of that. I didn't read it. I wrote Elbow Droppin' Dracula, and I brought my guitar, and I didn't bring a poster board, and I said, here's my project on Dracula, and it was a song about elbow dropping Dracula. She's like, pass. Yeah, you got it. Nice and creative. She loved it.
Yeah, I remember you told that story a couple of times at shows, and every time it hits good, man. Like,
yeah,
it was so awesome. And so I guess that's the Epic Wednesday thing was really a huge thing in my career. Even though it was like in the early days of it, I got to network with people across the country because after a few years of it, you have a Wednesday night show in St. John's, and a Wednesday night show in St. John's that has people that show up is like eye candy for people who are booking tours across the country or across the province. They're like, what? I got an off day where I can play to a bunch of people and make some money? Like, sure, let's do it, right? Mm-hmm. So I networked a lot, and I still have a lot of really good friends across the country because of that. And
no, I mean, they were very, very, very successful. I mean, I took part in a bunch of them, and if I wasn't taking part, I was generally hanging out there. I mean, it was always a real fun thing to do. And you got the network, which I always loved. I mean, especially starting up. I mean, I probably even took it for granted because I didn't know how much I was learning from those shows and the people that I was meeting. I didn't even really think about it a whole lot at that point. It was just fun to get out and perform. But I mean, looking back on it, it's like, I still have friends from those days. I mean, you do as well. And I mean, like you mentioned, I mean, touring acts that you'd meet that you would have never probably met before, and people got involved. And I mean, it was always a great crowd too. It was always like a really nice, it was like his own little community, which was, I love that. I mean, it was always such a blast to play those.
I think if someone were to do that now in town, it would really hit good, right?
There's really nowhere to do that now. I mean, it's so weird. I mean, like the deck doesn't really exist as it did in our days. And for anybody who's listening who maybe is confused by the deck is Holdsworth Court above Shamrock City, where the Bull and Barrel is now, the old CBTG's Plan B. But those two spaces where Distortion was and the Levee was, or Roxy's, or whatever you wanted to call it. I mean, it had 100 different names, but I mean, those two spaces are still vacant. I mean, there's nothing going on in those. And those are very special venues. I mean, to me, I mean, that's where I learned how to play guitar on a stage and use a microphone. Like, I mean, before that, I was just playing shed parties or playing in people's basements. I mean, you never ever got a chance to actually perform for people or to talk about songs or talk about your songwriting processes and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's very advantageous to a person who was trying to cut into a scene like that. You're right. I mean, it's too bad there isn't something like that still going on, because I think it could be very, very beneficial, especially to to young songwriters in the city.
Yeah, I mean, as you said earlier, I think we all kind of took it for granted because we didn't know how special it was. Because in the time, in my thought process, the deck is so great, it's going to be here forever, right? And I mean, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, every bar had music playing. There was always like 30 to 100 hands on the deck chilling out.
I know, and I mean, amazing. The big thing too, I mean, is that it was original music. I mean. Yeah. There's a million places in St. John's where you can go hear people play cover songs. I mean, and that is what it is. But I mean, that was a real hub for original music up on that deck in those four spaces, really. The Bull and Barrel was the same thing and still is, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, they're holding strong there. It's always great to play up at the Bull because you do get to, perform a lot of your own stuff, which is different, obviously, in different venues. But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, definitely took that for granted for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? If I could do something somewhat to that capacity here in Central, I would do it, but I just don't know how viable it is because I just maybe having an abundance of artists around is another thing that I definitely took for granted, right? Because I loved it.
Yeah, and well, you mentioned Central. I mean, so after all these years in St. John's and doing your thing and attending university and performing solo. I mean, you obviously performed solo. I know you had a bunch of different projects on to go throughout the years. I mean, you're in Graveyard. I mean, there was what was the folk band? I love the name of it. Tall Tales. I love that.
Yeah. I remember it was like Tall Tales when it was the full band.
And Short Stories, right?
When it was me and just the girl, we went by Short Stories.
Yeah, I love that, man. It was awesome.
It's too bad it didn't. I really love that project. I found a bunch of old videos the other day and watched them and messaged them to some people. And it's nice, good vibes from back in the day for sure.
Yeah, and always nice to check that stuff out. So, I mean, you finish up in St. John's and you make the decision to move to Central. How did that kind of play out in your life? How did that work?
Yeah, so I mean, it just kind of like got dropped on me because in December 2012 is when I finished my second degree, which was music education, right? Mm-hmm. And so like my plan was I was going to just live in St. John's and get on the sub list and try and wiggle my way into some work, right? Like working in the classroom full time or some replacements just short out of town. I was all for it, right? But I finished my internship at Brother Rice. And so that was like mid-December. And I would say January 2nd, I get an email from a guy named Brian Hancock in Springdale at a school called Indian River High and said, hey, we're looking for somebody to fill a position for the rest of the year. I got your name from the music education department. Would you be interested in just packing up and moving out to Springdale? And the adventure in me right away was like, done. Whatever hoop I got to get my certification finalized. I'll graduate from the music ed program in March. Who cares about that? Let's go out and get some work done. And so I got this email on January 2nd, and my first day on the job was February 2nd. But it was a snow day, so it was pretty sick.
No way, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's classic, man. So I just on no notice, just kind of like got the job, quit my job at Boston Pizza, gave Epic Wednesday to Matt Hare, I think, and then here I am living in Central 10 years. 10 years.
Wow. Holy, that's crazy, man. I mean, that must have been quite just to kind of pack up and go like that. I mean, you'd already done it once. I mean, you'd already moved to Newfoundland, you'd moved to St. John's, and you'd made some, pretty strong roots there, I would imagine. But do you think it was because the opportunity came to teach and it was probably going to be a little tougher to do that in St. John's? I mean, I would imagine that must be challenging to get in somewhere because where it is, it's not a niche, subject. I mean, but like, I feel like if you probably teach, in another field, you can probably get in a little bit easier. Whereas music, it's just probably only X amount around, right?
Yeah. So like to be like you can teach music if you have the credentials, but with the training that I have, it's called like a music specialist. So
Hmm.
I'm kind of like a little bit of head in that line. But again, there's only a select amount of people who have it. So and I know that pool and that kind of community in St. John's is a little oversaturated at the moment. So I definitely thought, you know what, this is my way to get in because you get in as a permanent teacher, and then you can the way the hiring process works is if you're a permanent teacher, you kind of get a little bit of a priority in hiring above people who have like contracts or that are on the sub list and stuff like that. So I want to get my foot in the door, and my initial plan was, sure, I'll go to Springdale and I'll just keep taking jobs and move closer east so I can get back to St. John's. But I really loved it out there. I
Hmm.
grew up in a small town in Nova Scotia, so I really got that vibe, and it was quiet. I wasn't like I wasn't out playing overplaying gigs. That was a real topic that had come up to me in a lot of music industry conversations. Like, Baxter, you're playing in St. John's way too much. I was playing like what, 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 nights a week. And I loved it, right? But people were kind of saying you're not doing anything for yourself professionally. So I thought maybe this would be a good way to do it. But the move was incredibly like it was a hard decision. Like, I mean, like, you're gonna make money, you're gonna further your career, but man, I spent a decade living in St. John's, making the best friends I'll ever have in my life, playing the best shows, meeting lots of people, hanging out with like like people that you grow up kind of hearing about, like
Hmm.
all these names you hear on the ECMAs. Like, you meet the Ennis sisters, you meet Alan Doyle, and you're like, man, this is so sick. But
Hmm.
like, I had to move on, and
Yeah, I
it was
mean,
a great
and I mean
decision.
that. Yeah, and I mean that obviously would that's a tough decision, but the whole
Yeah,
time while doing so, I mean, you kept plugging along at your own career as well as a musician. Sorry, I mean,
yeah,
I know that's obviously a huge number one for you. I mean, you're a music educator, but you're also a musician as well.
yeah,
And I was going down through your catalog today. Like, I kind of had this a little bit later in the interview. Like, you have an insane amount of songs.
yeah. Well, especially after last month, but
Well, like I counted like just quickly. I mean, I counted over 70 songs recordings that are just easy accessible. I mean, that you can just go
oh,
listen to. There's 70 there. I mean, including the 28 you did last month. Like, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, especially, is like, how do you choose what to perform for shows? Like, when you're going out to do a show, how do you pick and choose from certain different albums, or how does that work for you?
well, I guess that's a great question. Thank you. Like, that's really nice. I guess it's you kind of look at what the gig is, if it's a sit down venue or if it's a bar or you're playing like a party or you're doing like the Arts and Culture Center or anything like that. I just kind of like pick to what my voice will suit it for that day, because being a teacher is hard on the voice, so you got to kind of pick what physically you're able to do your best. And I guess I'll always have like a main rotation of like 12 songs that are just in the forefront. Like, those are my best songs right now. I'm going with them. So I guess it's just that what's kind of like in on the forefront. And I mean, if I'm promoting a product or like a project that I just finished, that will take some priority. Or if like, I mean, for instance, if I play in Springdale, I'm 100% playing Coming Back for You, because I lived in Springdale when I wrote that. And a lot of the kids that would come see me play, kids, I say they're adults now. I released that song when some of these kids were grade 7, 8, and 9, seeing, oh, your music teacher released a song and had a good video from Heavy Weather on it, that I'll still play it in Springdale every time, but I won't necessarily play it anywhere else. It just hits in different spots. So just knowing your market and kind of knowing what will hit well and what you think will hit well, and you know what, if somebody requests one of the songs and I remember it, I'll try my darndest.
That must
But
be an
we'll see.
interesting dynamic, Bax. I mean, with teaching, I mean, like you mentioned that a lot of these kids that you taught probably 10 years ago are now adults. I mean, you probably see them around. I mean, if you do a show, they're still coming out to see. I mean, that must be a really neat way to kind of keep in touch with people. Like, how do the kids kind of? I know what type of person you are. I mean, you're energetic, you're fun. I mean, the kids must really react to you pretty well, I would imagine.
Well, we definitely we have a good time in the classroom. We get stuff done, but it's all like within a globe of mutual respect. So it's like even though I'm the teacher, like you're still a person, I'm a person. I have feelings, you have feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's for a lot of students that I teach, who are of age now that can go to bar shows or come out. A lot of them will come out and we connect. And first thing I say, it's like, man, it's so sick to hang out with you on this side of adulthood,
Right, right,
right?
yeah.
And so we just connect that way, and keep in touch.
It's
And I
always
mean,
interesting. I mean, I run into some old teachers every now and then. You know, you run into them at a bar or something like that, and it's so interesting to chat with them now because there's, to me, I mean, they feel so much different than they did then. I mean, it felt like so much more of a, I don't know, it's just the way you looked at your teachers. So I mean, it's interesting to connect with well, former teachers like that in adulthood, like you mentioned. I mean, that's pretty
yeah,
interesting dynamic, no doubt.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
really nice.
with all that, I mean, you after one, I think is it 4 or 5 music educator of the year with Music and L.
I just won my fifth.
Yeah, just won your fifth. I knew that. I knew
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So that's, I mean, what a feat that is. I mean, that must feel really incredible. I know that you put a lot of work in there, and like what other kind of things do you do besides teaching in the classroom with regards, like you teach band and stuff like that too, right? I mean, is that
Yeah.
extracurricular stuff?
So no, actually, so what I do, my program from seven, I teach at two schools, right? One's
Okay.
7 to 9, one's 10 to 12. The 7 to 9 feeds right into the 10 to 12.
Wait, are you off at 12 every day?
No, no, sorry. Grade 7 to 9 and grade
Oh,
10 to 12.
okay.
Yeah. No, man,
I was like, are
so
you a
dope,
teacher that
though.
gets off at 12 o'clock every
Oh,
day?
I wish, man, but no. So I get the bulk of my students in grade 7 when they're kids,
Right.
just coming up from the elementary school or the academy in Lewisport, and so I get them from grade 7, and like that's the time when they're really receptive to fun,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you make it fun, give them praise when they do something good, and then so it just and you get them through to grade 9 and stuff like that. Then when they get up to grade 10, if they choose to take music, so the what it is what I teach. It's all in a concert band setting. So you get your instrument, whether it's flute, clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, trombone, baritone, tuba, all those band instruments, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they get that, and that's what they pretty much will learn music with me on till grade 12. And obviously, it's progressive, right? I do have a couple extracurricular programs that I have, definitely during not COVID times, but
Right.
I have at both schools I have a jazz band,
Mm-hmm.
so you do kind of like more advanced, more fun stuff. Then I have choirs that I have where I'm not really a traditional choir guy, so it's like we take pop songs or songs that the kids like, we sing them. Once we get them down, we're like, okay, let's talk about adding some harmonies and stuff like that. Come up with our own arrangements, and it's really fun. And we do some real nice, cool stuff. And but then outside of the classroom, or like at the end of the day, I teach private guitar lessons. I go to students' houses to save parents from running around, right? So teach private guitar lessons, usually classical guitar, because there's not really anybody around that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I come home and sing about my feelings.
Love it, man. Love it.
Yeah.
You did just mention COVID. I definitely, I mean, we're
Uh,
hilariously enough, I mean, we're just coming out of this mask mandate when this episode drops. I mean, just a couple of days, which is interesting
yeah.
in itself. I mean, not to get into too much political stuff, but I mean, there seems to be a lot of cases going around and all that stuff, whether you'll
Yeah.
sit on one side of the fence or the other. But what's COVID been for like for you? I mean, as both an educator and as a musician, I mean, I'm a musician. I mean, I've felt it. I know what it's been like, but it's interesting to hear where it comes from other people. So like, what has that been like, as an educator and as a musician?
I'll do two separately. If that's cool with you, man.
Yeah.
As an educator, it was really tough. It's been tough on teachers. It's been tough on students. It's been tough on admin. Tough on parents. Every stakeholder, it's tough, right? For me, in the band setting, it's been through so many different sets of regulations and kind of like ideals that it's been a bit of a blur. So if I don't get it all out, I'm terribly sorry. But like when we first went back, we weren't allowed to have band, right? They were like, it's going to transmit too much, airborne, all that. So I get into theory and I get into kind of just music projects. But then we were allowed to play, but you can only play for so long, and you have to have bell covers and all this. And you find as many different inceptions of a band program that you can have That's what I've been through for the last 2 years. And we're only now just starting to kind of get past that so we can have full length rehearsals. We can take the bell covers off so they sound right. But the cool thing with the band thing is, and I guess I'm kind of just combing over it because, long story short, it's been really difficult. But the best thing is, man, we had enough of a leeway in the fall that that at my senior high level, we were able to put together a jazz band, a choir, and get the concert band ready. That we actually managed to get a concert in on December 12th. And it's like December 14th is when it all just went kaput.
Blew up again,
right?
yeah.
So, we were all really lucky. I mean, and at the concert, there was no riffraff, people getting upset about masks or Vax Pass or anything like that. And they all did it. No cases came of it. So we all had a real great experience with that. And the kids felt great. They were actually like, seriously, man, it was so phenomenal. I would show anybody those recordings because, man, they were dope. But then we got awesome, back. Man. Then we got online, and teaching band online is like near to impossible. But we still, my only goal was to keep the kids playing, kept them playing, loved it.
Good.
Yeah. As an artist, the first shutdown back in 2020, I started really being depressed because you have a bunch of gigs canceled. I had a couple arts and culture center gigs just pulled out from under you. I had like plenty of shows booked that just got pulled out. So I got depressed, but then I kind of linked up with Jordan Young and Richie Perez doing the COVID collection thing. And that inspired me to do my own kind of videos. So I was taking originals and redoing them. And that really gave me a resurgence as an artist, focusing on self-recording and production and networking across the province in a different way. And then over the summers, kind of everything opened up and I was able to play shows. I even got in one of those Arts and Culture Center gigs in 2020. So I guess, long story short, with being an artist and COVID, necessity is the mother of invention, and I'm never going to stop playing music, and I'm never going to stop trying to pursue it as a dream. So, I mean, it's been different. I haven't been on stage as much as I like to do. I love playing shows. I know, you love playing shows. So I just really focused on creating and promoting on the internet as much as I could. Yeah, and it's been great. I've learned a lot. But I still miss playing lots of shows.
Yeah. No, I feel you, man. It's and it's so weird. Like, I mean, with the waves of different things that have happened, I mean, it's like up and down. Then you feel like you're out of the woods, and then you go and book a bunch of shows. And like, I mean, those Arts and Culture Center shows you had booked, they're big shows, man. There's a lot of work that goes into them, and they're good. Just like they're good ones to have on the resume. You want to feel good about those shows. I mean, they're big concerts, right? You know what I mean? Where you really get to showcase yourself properly in the way that you probably want to be showcased, which is, and then it's just ups and downs and ins and outs, and you book stuff and it's canceled and all that stuff. And it's been tough. It's been challenging. There's no doubt about that.
Like I'm even like half like bummed out just like hearing you say that because I'm weird. Like I'm bummed, but I feel like I'm empathizing with you because it's like I'm there with you, man. It sucks, and it's hard to hear great artists like yourself say that because it sucks, and it's
thank
really
you for
tough.
that. Yeah,
It's my pleasure.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, Baxter, was I know that you had released an album on a record label, but you've since become an independent artist again. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, thanks, man. So back in like 2016, I did a showcase for the Music and L conference. I think it was 2015, actually. Terribly sorry. So I did a showcase for the Music at Newfoundland Labrador conference, and it was at the Ship. I did that with the band that I had at the time. I think it was like Jordan Young was on bass, Jason Howard on drums, Paul Heppelson from Pasadena on guitar, and I had a guy named Scott Pinn playing mandolin. So anyways, through that showcase, I was approached by Dean Stairs, who runs the Citadel House, and asked me if I was interested in coming in and having a chat. Now, I had just moved to Lewisport, so it was kind of worked out that, I lived in the area that the Citadel House was. So I went in and had a chat, and I felt good about it, and he asked me if I would sign to his company, and I did. And I spent 5 years and released an album a year. So I did 2016, 17. I think I released 2 albums in 2018. One was like a live acoustic one. And then the other one was in 2019, was Infinity. And I would put out these records. I'd tour them in the summer. And it went really great, and I learned a whole lot from them. But I think after the fifth year or the fifth release, I was really business driven um, through this process. And it's good to be business driven, but I wasn't really feeling like fulfilled as an artist. So I went to their house and I just talked to them, and I just kind of talked about how I was feeling, and I just assured that it was nothing to do with them because they're really great people. As music industry professionals at the Citadel House, they do a good job, and they promote themselves well, and they promote their artists really well, and it's a great support. But I was just feeling like I either needed a break or I needed to focus more on art than I did the music or the business side. And this was in the fall of 2019. So take a couple months where I'm like directionless, playing a few gigs, not really knowing what I'm doing, and the pandemic hits. And if we rewind back to what I just said, that I linked up with the COVID collection, that was where I got my kind of resurgence back as an artist, because I had all this time stuck in my house. We weren't teaching. I had like 6 months off. So I got to really focus on my craft, and it felt really great to do that because I was happy with what I was creating. It wasn't business driven. It wasn't about like deadlines, getting it done, make money, tour. No, it was just like, let's make music. And I made music, and it felt great.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's all about, I mean, where your head is at mentally, and how you want to approach yourself, and whatever makes you feel honest about yourself. I mean, that's the biggest thing there, right? I got to ask you about this February month. I mean,
Okay.
this is absolutely nuts to me. I mean, to be able to do this, like, I have a few different questions on this angle, but first off, maybe you could explain. Would you call this an RPM?
Yes, only because the concept of RPM is why I wanted to do this. I've done RPM like 6 or 7 times.
Maybe you could just explain what an RPM is to
Oh, yeah.
anybody who's
Yeah.
unfamiliar.
Great. So RPM stands for Record Production Month. The concept of RPM showed up in St. John's in 2008 via the Scope, which is like an arts publication, kind of similar to Exclaim on the mainland, right? So, and they put this thing out called Record Production Month, and at the time, the parameters were write, record, and release an album in the month of February, right? Or maybe it's just record and release an album in the month of February. So
I think like
I
the
did
whole
it.
idea is to not like kind of dig into too much, kind of basically try to do it with what you have, not to try to
Yeah.
break the bank on it, but just try to be creative and try to get some stuff out of you that you probably wouldn't have done without that, you know?
Exactly. It's more like, instead of like making stuff to as a business thing, we want this area, this beautiful island, to just have that much music made and thrown out to the public as possible. Which really gave me a boost in 2008. It put me in the Scope. It put me on playlists in kitchens that people were working. And I was getting people coming up on the road, be like, "Yeah, that's a cool record." And I was like, "Man, it sounds like garbage, but thank you." Um, so it's, it's like a creation exercise is what I always considered it. And I've done it a bunch of times, and I wanted to come up with some different ideas. 2009, I did the 10 songs released in February, but it was, every song was 45 seconds or shorter. The entire record was only 6 minutes. That was hard. It was weird, but that record actually won me a Music and L award. So I like don't know how that happened, but we won't get into that. But so last December, I was like, I'm gonna do RPM this year. I said, but what am I gonna do? And I was like, boom, I'm gonna do a song. I'm gonna write a song a day. I'm gonna record it right after I write it, and I'm gonna release it right after I record it. And it's like only one vocal, only one guitar. It's the focus is not on production. It's literally just on the song. Whatever I'm feeling that day, sit down, get the job done, and do it, right? And that's what it was, and that's kind of what spirited it.
So like, what were some of your inspirations behind like there had to be days. I mean, there's a lot of times like, myself, I mean, I sit down, like, it's so weird with songwriting because to me, I find songwriting when I force myself, very challenging. A lot of times, I would imagine that you can relate to this. Is that a lot of times songs just fall out. I mean, sometimes you can just pop out a song in 10 minutes, and you're like, "Whoa, that's an amazing song. I can't believe that just fell out." But when you're putting that kind of pressure on yourself to do a song every day, did you find that challenging to come up with material, with ideas, with chord progressions? I mean, all that stuff that had to be so difficult.
It did, and I think, oh man, okay. So like one, I knew I had to do it because in like December I was doing an interview with a radio station in Nova Scotia, and I brought it up. And the second I said it on air, I was like, damn, I have to follow through this, or I'm going to seem like such a loser. So I had that, but I think I think the big thing is that I didn't set any quality standards for myself. I was like, I just have to do it. It doesn't have to be good. I never have to play it again, right? And we all can write songs like that, right? We can just like friggin' drop something out and never use it again. So I didn't have my standard set. It was my only standard was to do it. So that definitely helped.
Right, right.
But in terms of like what inspired like songs, I would if I was really like having a hard go figuring something out, because it's easy to just write about how you're feeling that day, but unfortunately I don't have 28 different emotions, I don't think. So you go back in your mind the things you want to write about, something you hear in the news or whatever. But like if I got really desperate, I just googled like writing prompts.
Yeah, right.
There's things there. And there was one day where I was like, I'm going to try a random lyric generator, see how that goes, and just improv it, right? And I'm going to divulge it. Like, there was 28 songs released, but there's actually about 37. Because some days I did 2. I was like, because I did a song and I was like, man, this is so shit. So I was like, I got to do something else. So luckily, like, I think I'll just take those 7 songs, and, if there's like some sort of incentive, like a Patreon or something like that involved, I'll release that to Patreon or something like that with no expectations. So yeah, it's hard, but like, and it's a grind, but I did it, and I can grind through writing a song now. So that's cool.
No, that is great. I mean, and what an achievement. I mean, congratulations on that. I mean,
Thank you.
I can't believe that. To me, that just seems so daunting. But I mean, to other people, I mean, just writing a song seems daunting. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different levels of different things, right? But one cool thing I noticed with I seen you had posted on social media is that I know you're planning on possibly re-recording some of these songs to, in full production, but you're also allowing your fans to pick what's going to be your single.
Yeah, actually. It's actually like right now I could tell you what song it is because
you want to drop the news here?
Want me to drop the news right quick?
Let's do it.
Because I definitely took a look at that. I think I know which one it is. It's gonna be. I'm looking at my phone, not to be rude. Where is it? Okay, so. The first one is going to be Due for a Redo, which I hated that song, but the people have spoken. And then the next one is going to be called A Letter, because I'll just pick the 2. So yeah, it's that.
Isn't that interesting that you didn't... It's not that you probably weren't fond of the song, but you probably thought there was different ones that probably would have fit better, or however that works. Isn't that interesting how your fans, your listeners take something else out of what you might have thought,
Yeah, like it's weird. And I was warned this was going to happen. I have a friend in Halifax. Her name is Mary Stewart. She used to, and I believe will eventually again, run a venue in Toronto called Hughes Room.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Ron Hines used to play there all the time, I think.
Yeah, and they still do the Ron Hines tribute there, right?
Yeah.
So they have, this is going to make me seem like such a loser, by the way, but in 1 year, she did the 365 songwriting challenge where you write a song every day of the year, but it didn't involve writing and recording. It's just recording and releasing. Sure. Just write it. And that was kind of based on Bob Dylan's saying, whereas like if you write a song every day, you're eventually going to have one good one.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, she kind of told me, she's like, I did the same thing that you're planning to do. She's like, but just be prepared. They're going to pick a song that you have no idea that they want you to play. And I was like, damn. And it happened. It just happened.
You know what? I always find that interesting. You know, it's so funny when I'm playing a show somewhere and somebody like yells out like a deep cut, like as a request, like some song I never ever play. I've never released a video or a single. And I'm like, damn, I love that. I mean, I love that song has somehow connected with somebody else, like without me pushing it into their face. Like, you know what I mean? They kind of found that song themselves. I always love that. Right.
I do too. And I think it's great. And I'll do the best I can with the song, and might even get a drummer. Who knows? Like it's neat.
Yeah. I know you've been doing some like remote stuff too, haven't you? Like with recording and stuff like that. Have you?
Yeah. So I got I basically got a team over COVID. I hate to bring up COVID again, but I basically assembled a team of artists that I trust, and that also have home recording setups. Right. So I got Stuart Gallant in Stephenville, or Kippens to be exact. He's a drummer. He's a trained drummer through Saint FX Music. Does great work, and he's got a great home recording setup. So I basically like do scratch guitar with to a metronome, and he does his thing.
Cool.
Very and then cool. I got a guy in Corner Brook, Rick Waterman, bass player, lovely individual. And he does my bass tracking for me. Or I get Claire Follett in St. John's, who is like, come on, like the super kid, right?
Yeah, I had Claire on the podcast. Actually, she's awesome.
Oh, it's genius level, man.
Yeah.
And then I got a couple guitar players over the island. If I get people to do electric stuff, I'm good at recording my acoustic, but electric, I don't know, man. It's not really my jam. So I get Paul,
thrash zone.
Yeah, Paul Heppelson out of Pasadena is my kind of go-to guy. He's been he did some work on Jerry Stamp's record.
Yep.
Done some rocket ship stuff. You definitely know Paul. He's a lovely individual. Yep. And you've probably seen him on stage with me before. Like
absolutely. I believe I played that show with you that you were talking about earlier, that Music and L showcase at the Ship. Pretty sure we were on that same bill.
Rachel Cousins on that as well. And the Kubasonics.
Was that it? In 2014 or 2015?
No, you're right.
Couldn't have been then.
No, it was a different gig. Okay, my mind is gone, but it was definitely. I'm almost certain you were there, and it was a fun gig.
You recently bought a boat.
Yeah. Oh wow, I didn't see that one coming, but
what's up with the boat, man? That's super cool.
All right, so first of all, we bought it off a musician here in Newfoundland, Mike McDonald, out of Twillingate.
Yep.
It was his boat, or him and his partner's family owned it, and they sold it to us. We, the wife and I, when COVID hit, I hate to freaking...
No, man.
COVID
changed
life. My life.
It's part of life. It is what it is.
So we really got into watching videos on off-grid living, tiny homes, and then it got into sailboating, cruising life, right? People traveling the world on their sailboats. Living off grid, with solar power, and just cruising around the world. Specifically, the one that we followed the most was a channel called SV Delos, which is a story of like two brothers who started sailing in Seattle, circumnavigated around the world. In the travels, Buddy found a girlfriend. They got married. They had a kid. So like right now in the States, they're like the boating is like showing life with their like raising a child on a boat. They're currently in Panama, right? But so we got really interested in this and really started researching sailing. We're like, you know what? We've never sailed. We want to buy a boat. So we were like, we could never afford it. And then my wife is a finance whiz. She was like, let's do it. We can do it. So we bought the boat. We bought it in Twillingate. We did a bunch of work on it up there, not knowing very much, getting a lot of help from people on the dockyard. Then we had the boat actually put on a flatbed and brought here to the Lewisport Marina, which is the largest marina in Atlantic Canada.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah, it's really cool. And so from there, we just kind of learned a lot about maintenance ourselves. We got the boat in the water with the mast up. And when the mast got put up, we didn't put it up right. So the mast fell and bent. Friggin' mast fell and bent, right? So we had to have the mast removed from the boat, but we're still in the water. And we were like, well, we have to get the mast fixed. So we got it fixed. But in the time it was getting fixed, we learned how to motor the boat, right? and to move it without sales. So we just wanted to kind of get used to it, and we took it out probably about a dozen times over the summer, and really felt good with it. And we would go down to the marina on like a Friday night and just spend the night on the boats, like our cabin.
Yeah.
So it's just something I think I came into my relationship with my wife having music as my big thing. And she had a couple of things and I had a couple of other things, but nothing that we did together. So we wanted to have this that we both started off fresh that we do together. So it's the lifelong plan is to eventually sell everything, sell the house, sell the cars, and buy a bigger boat and go on.
That's beautiful, man. That's really, really cool. Maybe you can take me out on your boat someday.
I was literally about to offer, anytime you're in Central over the summer, come on down by. Got a barbecue on the back too. We can have some sausages.
Burgers?
Fries. I would be honored to hang out with you on my boat.
Oh man, that'd be fun. I will definitely keep you posted if I'm out your way. That would be
sure.
That'd be really fun. This is awesome, Bex. Thanks so much for popping in today and chatting all your music. By all means, I've been doing this little fun segment. Oh, a little refresh, nice.
This is like a vocal spray I use sometimes.
Okay, mine is Jameson.
Man, I gotta tell you, I don't drink really at all.
I remember you saying that last time we were chatting. Yeah,
I went out to a buddy's cabin the weekend, and there was like 10 of us, and everybody was just going at it.
Right.
And all I said when I got there, I was like, I just want to play guitar and eat.
Right.
So that's all I did. I didn't have one drink. I could have, but I just vibing to tunes.
Yeah, and hey, nothing wrong with that. A real fun thing I've been doing, or I've been trying to do anyways, with this season of the podcast, I've been doing like this rapid fire questions segment. I mean, it's all just kind of no holds barred, bit of fun. I mean, you don't have to just nail one, say it and move on. We can chat about it for a second or two, but it's just kind of something a little bit fun. Okay.
Great. Yeah.
Are you ready for this segment?
Definitely. I love podcast games.
Rapid fire questions with Mr. Adam Baxter. Here's the first question. If you never played and taught music for a living, what would you be?
Taekwondo instructor.
Nice. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're big in Taekwondo. I mean, you do a lot of that stuff in your basement still. You the kick bag down there and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, I do when my knees work. Now that the winter's come to an end, they feel a lot better. But yeah, two-time Canadian Taekwondo champion as a junior, and in 1998 world quarterfinalist. I was like, that was what my path was going to be, but music really just kind of took it on me, man. So martial arts instructor, and if not that, probably a farmer.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you grew up on a farm, right? Dairy farm, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, who is your favorite songwriter currently?
Oh, David. Okay.
Or somebody you've been listening to a lot lately, or anything like that.
Okay, a big fan of Noah Gunderson.
Oh, I love Noah Gunderson.
Oh, so good.
Yep.
Can I take a second look at my Spotify?
Sure, absolutely.
Because there's definitely like a
nowhere
couple
to be.
there. I got near. The only place I have to be is downstairs working out, but I'll do that later.
I got butter chicken to have.
I had butter chicken for lunch.
Nice.
Not even gonna fit, man. There's a group called Matthew and the Atlas. They're like an indie band. I really like their stuff. Dude, Tim Baker. He's so good.
I totally agree. It's funny because I have another question in the end of this here. We'll keep going. We'll keep moving on here. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
What? I asked you this the other day, but I wanted to ask you over the podcast for our listeners here. What is your ideal party lunch? And for anybody who's wondering, a party lunch consists of 3 items. That is your favorite. That is your favorite snack.
Yeah.
What is your ideal party lunch?
Okay, so my question of this is always chips pop in a bar. I play it as a game in a class, right? There's no point. But if I were going to the store, right, and I had like $20 and I was getting, I would get a cold tin of Coke, classic. I want a bag of Miss Vicky's spicy dill pickle.
Nice,
so good. I'll take a Snickers bar if I'm not around anybody with the peanut allergy.
How considerate of you.
I want a thing of those high chew things. You know those?
I do know those. Yeah,
They're deadly.
They
And I
are
also
deadly,
I
yeah.
think I won a $3 bingo or a $3 crossword with that.
Can't go wrong with a scratchy. Can't go wrong with a
Yeah.
scratchy.
Oh, and what, like that's what I had like the other day with wife, and it's deadly.
I was reading today on Twitter or something like that Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, is currently
Yeah.
on life support and doesn't look promising. I think he had 3 heart attacks. So my question for you is, would you choose Razor Ramon or Diesel? Anybody who's listening to this right now, just listen to the audio file. Go to my YouTube page and check out this segment right now and see what Baxter's got in his hands.
I literally keep this behind me at all times in case I'm on a thing that does that. Okay. I'm gonna go with 1993 Razor Ramon.
The bad guy.
Especially like Royal Rumble 93 match with Bret Hart. Even though he didn't win it, what a match.
Yeah, big time.
And then, I mean, you got the ladder match, WrestleMania 10. Like,
one of the best matches of all time.
Of all times. So, like, I mean, I know Scott Hall had his problems, but I think in the grand scheme of things, he was an amazing worker.
And performer, man. His bit was so good. His bit was so good, right?
Chico.
Yeah, I mean, he was like the bad guy before like NWO became the bad guys of wrestling kind of thing. You know what I mean?
And like, and I gotta say, like Nash in a hall with the NWO WCW thing, brilliant.
Yeah, actually, Kevin Nash, he actually posted a pretty nice thing on Scott Hall. I just seen that on Twitter recently as well. You should check it out after this.
I 100% will.
All right, next question. Could you beat me in a game of tennis?
Yes. I play tennis every day.
I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah, I love it. Do you play?
I've played. I actually played a lot growing up. I haven't played as much recently. I actually play squash more than anything, which is a laugh. I mean, we go up to Mon all the time and play squash. But if I come out for a boat ride, we'll have to get in a little game.
Yes, I would love to play. You might beat me, honestly. I'm not that good, but I really love it, and I work on it every day. But what I play in my basement against the wall is more like squash than it is tennis. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Would you rather write songs solo, or would you rather collaborate with artists?
Both. I hate to pull that card. I like the intimacy of writing a song by yourself, but I also like the collaboration and what you get, like from other people, like in their styles that you get from that. So I'm gonna go with. I have to go with both. I can't. Both is
fair. Anything's fair. Anything's fair. Anything goes. No rules here. Where are my two here? Okay. Would you rather pick? Sorry. How am I gonna? Would you rather Mary Brown's or KFC?
Mary Brown's. I know I'm from the mainland, but come on, I got sense.
I'm waiting for the person to tell me KFC, and I'm gonna end the podcast just right there.
I don't know. Like,
listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. KFC has its place too. I don't mind to feed a KFC, man. And they also have Mountain Dew. Like
in the fountain.
Fountain. I couldn't find that word.
Yeah,
I couldn't. I was gonna say on tap.
Yeah, they got Black Horse back there too, buddy.
Where's your favorite place to travel in Canada?
Oh, bro, don't do that. Heart's always in Middleton, Nova Scotia, where Mom and Dad are, but I'm going to put that off the plate. My favorite place.
Not to play, like to travel, to vacation, like to go and see and hang out and enjoy.
I love Cape Breton. I think that's beautiful. I really I've played there a bunch, but I always had great vibes. I love Miramichi, New Brunswick.
Cool.
Give her on the river, they say there.
Okay.
And yeah, I've always had good vibes. I mean, I guess I like small towns, and not that Miramichi is a crazy small town in relation to where I'm from, but I like it. I find like traveling is more about. No, I'm changing my answer. Burgeo, Newfoundland.
Okay. Okay, done.
Boom. Burgeo.
Pennywise or Bad Religion?
Bad Religion.
I'm with you there as well.
No questions asked, buddy. Yeah. Harmonies for days.
Yeah, they're incredible. I mean, still doing it too, man. Like, still just banging it out. I mean, it's absolutely awesome.
Oh, it's all good. And they got such a songwriting formula. It's like Graffin can just like done.
I know.
Here's a song.
Last question for the rapid fire question segment. Who is a musician in Newfoundland that you think people should listen to or check out?
Okay, well, Dave Whitty. Okay, up and coming. I'm going to give you some names here now. There's a singer-songwriter here in Lewisport. She's in grade 12. Her name is Regan Holmes. Her uncle is Michael Kirby.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Okay?
Yep.
Keep that name. Kid is the most natural, awesome writer I've ever heard. I love it.
Awesome.
There's Tim Baker, obviously, that I made mention of, but a lot of people know Tim, so I don't need to plug that man. Goodness gracious. There's a band in Cornerbrook called The Proper Things that I think have a really great record right now, produced by Phil Churchill from The Once.
Mm-hmm.
Great album, really vibing the guts out of it. There's a band, okay, I got to tell you about this. There's a band in Marystown, right? And they only really play in the Burin Peninsula. And I hate their name. Their name's Skitterpup. But my dude, they are like the best like bar rock band you'll ever hear. 3-piece, nailing it.
Cool.
They're so good.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that's some good recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I guess those are like 3 kind of like under the radar groups right now. I could say Nick Earl, and everybody loves Nick Earl. Right?
Absolutely. No, Nick's one of the best.
Yeah. Oh, he's so good.
Actually, caught a few Nick Earl tunes last night.
Oh, were you at Rob's studio? Were you?
No, I was at Greensleeves at the pub.
Not bad. No, yeah. There's a lot of really great artists that are in Newfoundland. What a crazy musically rich area of the world this is. I think you and I both understand how blessed we are. And there's not a lot of. I find there's less going on right now because of COVID. Also, the band Swimming.
Oh yeah, they rule.
Jacob Cherwick's band. Holy crap, they're so right up my 1990s emo kid alley. Woo!
Yeah, I seen they're playing. Oh, they're opening for Novax. Yeah, I seen that at the Rock House. It's going to be an awesome show. I got to get Mick on this. I got to get Mick on the podcast too. I said this last episode as well. But Mick would be a great person to get on as well. Baxter, it's been absolutely fantastic and lovely to catch up. Always a treat. Where can everybody find Adam Baxter, and where can everybody find this 28 new songs, and where can we listen to Adam Baxter?
So I guess the hub of all internet content is the website, adambaxtermusic.com. You can find me on all socials using the handle at Adam Baxter Music, and that's even MySpace, TikTok, the whole thing. But if you want to find the 28 songs in 28 days, I've left it only on Bandcamp, which is at adambaxtermusic.bandcamp.com, right? So, and listen, if you're having trouble finding it, go to the website or find me on Facebook, Instagram, or anything and fire me a message. I'd love to get it there for you. It might go up on Spotify, but I don't know. It's making good money where it is, so I don't want to move it just yet, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's the way to do it. I really appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you're super busy and got a lot on the go, but really appreciate you taking the time to be able to have a little chat with me today. Awesome. Man, great catching up.
I could do this for another couple hours, so give me a call if you're bored. Right?
All right, buddy. We'll catch up with you soon. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. So great chat.
All right. Cheers. Huge thanks to Adam for coming on there. Always great catching up with Bax. I mean, we've been friends for a long time, like I mentioned, and you know we've done a ton of shows over the years. And he works harder than probably anybody in the music business, especially on the island. I mean, he has a ton of so much material out there. I was going down through his song list. I couldn't believe how many songs he has released and recorded and available to listen to. Plus, that project in February is just so daunting to me. I'm, very, very impressive. And, Baxter's just easygoing guy, awesome to chat with. Does great things within the school, and he's an educator. He's won a ton of awards for that. So make sure you do check out Baxter's music online and check Adam out on his website and all the social media channels. That about does it for me, guys. Want to say a big shout out to Lamb's Rum again for jumping on board with this podcast. Great collaboration, great to work with them, and make sure you get a drop of Lambs in ya. That about does it for me, guys. From downtown St. John's, Newfoundland, I'm Dave Whitty. Peace.